The Warsaw Ghetto Uprising was a truly memorable event in the history of World War II, one that is still spoken about today. Several factors worked together to culminate this event, but the key factor was undoubtedly the moral, cultural, and spiritual resistance that the Jews possessed. It was a key cause of the uprising. Spiritual and cultural resistance is essentially the weaponization of the human spirit. Small acts of rebellion in the form of personal efforts. This was, for the people in the ghettos, the only way they could oppose the wrong being done to them. By practicing their religion, despite the Nazis trying to destroy it, and by trying to maintain a sense of social and cultural life, they resisted. This type of resistance took many forms. Some steps people took were simply everyday actions. Parents would give away their rations to their children to help the new generation to survive. In doing so, they were defying the Nazi plan to exterminate the Jewish race. Workers took part in slowdown strikes, where they would decrease production by working slower. Roman Kent remembers that the slowdown strikes worked quite well because the management running the forced labour camp he was at was too afraid of German punishment to speak up about the striking. Another form of cultural resistance was the continuation of entertainment, such as music, poetry, and literature. In the Lodz ghetto, Sonnenberg's lending library was established. Books were borrowed and returned, and the library was incredibly popular, despite having high fees and the line for borrowing being nearly a kilometre long. Organised cultural entertainment evenings where poetry was read, plays were put on, and music was performed took place in many of the ghettos. In the Warsaw Ghetto, the Jewish Symphony Orchestra was formed, and 5 professional theatres were established. There were many children inside the various ghettos. They had been moved away from their homes and their schools where they had previously spent a large amount of their time. Schools were established in the hope that they would be able to provide the children with a sense of normality and stability in a situation which was anything but stable. In the Warsaw Ghetto, the Council of Elders of the Jewish district undertook the task of restoring education to the youth. Some adults took on the task of educating the youth underground. They would teach traditional Jewish practices and traditions, defying the Nazis' wish to end the Jews, their race, and their culture. A school that did continue to educate while confined to the ghetto was the Beth Jacob Orthodox School for Girls, which had several thousand pupils. The primary form of this resistance were the cultural and religious acts. The Nazis wished to abolish Judaism and Jewish culture, but even in the horrors of the ghettos, Jewish culture stood strong. Jews resisted the Nazi restrictions by continuing to meet in their synagogues to pray and worship, and by celebrating and recognizing Jewish holidays. Purim, a Jewish holiday where gifts and foods are exchanged in recognition of saving the Jewish people from Haman, was celebrated by the Jews in the ghettos. They couldn't feast as was traditional, but celebrations still occurred. There were people living in the ghettos who were of the opinion that all these small resistances that were taking place were at best trivial, especially entertainment in the ghetto, such as poetry, music, libraries. After all, what's the point when things are this bad? However, a majority of people being forced to live in the ghettos had the exact opposite opinion, that by practicing their culture, their beliefs, and their holidays, despite the fact it was illegal, was of utmost importance. That to keep their sense of humanity, their religion, and even their sense of self, they had to not only remember and practice, but celebrate them. These people were from all walks of life and had many approaches to resistance through cultural and moral acts. One of such people, who was a leading figure in the Warsaw Ghetto, was a teacher named Yitzhak Katzelon. He was known as the living spirit behind the school in the Warsaw Ghetto. The main impact that he left on those living in the Warsaw Ghetto was to love and be proud of their Jewish heritage. He emphasized this particularly to his pupils, that even though times were rough, to continue practicing Judaism and its traditions. Benjamin Mead and his family found resistance in simply the continuation of normal Jewish life. His sister was married in the Warsaw Ghetto, and his family continued the tradition of circumcising children when his brother was born. Moral, cultural, and spiritual resistance accounts for the rise of all forms of resistance. Many of the people that lived in the Warsaw Ghetto, such as Benjamin and Yitzhak, resisted because they were motivated by their morals, culture, and religious beliefs. The Nazis had forced degradation on them in every way possible, hoping to break them, but this led to spirits not being broken as was intended, but only consolidated the Jews' willpower and their belief to resist in any way possible, no matter how small or seemingly insignificant. The Jews in the Warsaw Ghetto were inspired through these small acts of cultural resistance to continue to upscale this resistance. The smaller acts also bonded the Jews of the Warsaw Ghetto through their shared culture and the hatred of the Nazis that they all possessed, leading to a sense of social unity. This social unity was developed as a result of the extremely close proximity they were forced into by the Nazis, who were hoping to create discord among the Jewish, but it did the opposite. These bonds formed allowed escalations of defiant acts that eventually led to the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising. This type of resistance is particularly fascinating to many historians, as it is not only interesting in the form of history, but in the way humans react to such horrific periods. Historian Mr. Chris Harris states, "I got older and was exposed to the acts of resistance. It totally engaged me that people in the worst of conditions were able to have the strength to carry on in some form of normality in the face of all that was going on. The ability to practice their faith, to find ways to celebrate the high holy days in the Jewish calendar, the smuggling of paper and paints to allow the young people to have a school where they can express themselves and carry on learning. All of this takes courage, determination, and strength of character. The ability of the Jewish people to resist in the ways they were determined to continue on, determined that this would not be their last hurrah. The ways they cared for the children, knowing the best way to get back at their oppressors was to simply survive, take care of the next generation, and continue their customs and way of life."
Money, honey, money is the only thing. If you don't have money, you can kiss your ass goodbye, because money, honey, money is the only thing. Moes ist die erste Sache, ja, Moes ist die beste Sache. Hast du nicht kein Moes, sie ist zu dir a Klog. Gib weg de Bonne und sag da guten Tag, weil Moes ist die beste Sache. Now the Jew government here in ghetto land, they oppress us with heavy taxes, but in return, they kindly give us all the bread and saccharin we can stomach. I tell you, money, honey, money is the root of all things.
Resistance!
Gemeine, nehmt von uns Danine und geht uns doch zu Moes. Moes ist die beste Sache. Moes is the best Sache. Now back home, before all of this, I ate sweet oranges, but these days, it's the lice and the bed bugs that eat on me, 'cause money, honey, money is the only thing. In der Heim hab ich gegessen Pomeranzen, heint essen mich ruf, der Leis mit der Wanzen, weil Moes is die erste Sache. If you don't have money, you are out of luck. If you don't have money, you are fucked, 'cause money in this place is the only thing. You say you lack money, you don't have any. Now I have just the plan for you. You find yourself a hole and crawl in there, 'cause money, honey, money is the only thing. Moes is the best Sache. Moes ist die erste Sache.